In 2023, does it make any sense at all for any driver, virtually any market in America, if not the world, to get involved in a long-term contract based on revenue earned from ride sharing? What up, folks? Once again, it is your boy Tim with another ride sharing video. Now we're going to be talking about EVs, electric vehicles like the Tesla, the Leaf, and some of these vehicles that run solely off of electricity. As we know around the world, particularly here in the United States, we're moving away from vehicles operated by fossil fuel in favor of electric vehicles. And Uber is promoting to many drivers the benefits, in their opinion, of purchasing an electric vehicle. Now, this is coming to you from a story titled, "Once you get an EV with Uber, you'll be stuck. Driver says program to reduce emissions keeps drivers on the road longer for less pay." Now, in my humble opinion, you don't need to have an EV to have the same damn complaint that driving for Uber has turned into a venture where you're driving a hell of a lot longer for less pay. That's happening to all of us. Now, in the beginning of the video, I asked a question about getting involved in a long-term contract that is dependent upon your earnings from Uber or Lyft. In this case, we're talking Uber. Purchasing an EV is indeed a long-term contract. Most of the time you buy a car, it's a 5, 6, or 7-year note you're paying on a vehicle. I don't see how anybody, any single driver, would purchase a vehicle, particularly a new or newer vehicle in 2023, depending upon how much they earn from Uber or Lyft. Now, if you have it as a side job, yours truly, I drive ride sharing as a side job. I have a predominant day job that covers my expenses, but I make a little bit of money on the side with ride sharing when they're offering some type of earnings incentive. But for those who are doing it full time, I cannot see where it makes sense financially at all in this day and age to really do anything based on your earnings from Uber or Lyft, unless it's something that really is inexpensive, like perhaps purchasing a few items of furniture that may cost you a couple $1,000, where you got room to fluctuate. But buying a car to basically participate in ride sharing full time, that no longer makes sense. I think we have seen ride sharing, the path that ride sharing intends to take long enough at this point to know that the goal is to reduce your earnings. Whatever you're making today, they intend to try to pay you less tomorrow. There is no one, absolutely not a single driver that is out here in ride sharing that can suggest that their pay has went up from year to year. Having said that, you go out and buy a car today. Let's say, for instance, today I got a $400 note. I make $1,000 a week ride sharing. That's $600 of additional monies on top of my car note that I can use to pay off, bills, whatever the hell it may be. Guaranteed, the goal of Uber is to reduce that $1,000. So tomorrow, maybe instead of 1,000, you're making 960 a week. Next week, maybe you're making 900. This has happened to everyone all over the country. So why would you get involved in a long-term contract that at the end of the contract, you may be making $600 a week? It just makes no sense at all. And I'm not overstating it by any means at all. Anyone in ride sharing can tell you that 5 years ago, the pay was substantially more than it is today, which would be comparable to my fictional scenario where you were making 1,000 a day. 5 years from now, you're making 600. That has happened to real people. I just can't advise anyone to get involved in a long-term contract dependent on ride sharing. Now, this story comes out of Toronto, Canada, but I'm reading it to you, or we're illustrating it because it certainly applies here in America. Folks take on Hertz rental contracts and things like that to get in ride sharing. It's just not where it's at, folks. This is a side hustle for certain in 2023. There was a time where you could make decent money as a full-time driver. It's too much of a hustle to do that now. To make a decent wage as a rideshare driver in 2023, you damn near got to drive all day long. The idea that a rideshare driver now has flexibility is almost laughable. You don't have much flexibility when you're driving every hour you're awake. That's not flexible. But nevertheless, some drivers still continue to think you're flexible when you're working maybe 50% more than the average W-2 employee just to make the same wages. I don't see flexibility in that at all. You're not going to get a raise. You're not going to get 2 weeks of vacation. You're contributing nothing to Social Security. You get no health care. You get no overtime. There is zero upward mobility. That's not flexibility, folks. You're just simply buying time. So I wanted to point that out, but I mentioned the hours of work because in this story, the driver who actually did purchase an EV, purchased a Tesla, and soon was trying to get rid of it. Uber gave him a bunch of rainbows and unicorns, sold it as a great way to get involved in the ride-sharing game, to make a bunch of money, and he didn't take him long to realize I'm not making enough to even pay off this damn car. And of course, he did state that he was working 8 to 10 hours with a fossil fuel vehicle before purchasing a Tesla, and now he's got to work 12 hours just to pay off the damn Tesla and meet his bills. So he literally added 2 to 4 extra hours of work per day just to make this Tesla work. Nevertheless, Uber sold it to him like it was a great idea and all of this. As we continue moving more and more towards electric vehicles, I can tell you one thing I know for certain. Expect the lies coming from Uber and Lyft, particularly Uber, to increase. They know many locales are going to be requiring EVs, particularly California is leading the charge where everybody's going to have an electric vehicle. Uber is not going to raise its salaries to drivers to match that shit. What they're going to do is continue lying, continuing to get a string of new drivers falling for it and bankrupting people in the process. Unless somehow, some way, the drivers get some successful legislation that gives them some kind of minimum earnings guarantee, some kind of minimum wage like they pushed in Seattle, they're pushing, trying to get through in Minnesota, New York, and a few other places. But until you get some type of guarantee that you know you're going to get by law, I would not encourage anyone to get involved in any type of long-term contract that is dependent upon your salary from Uber or Lyft. You simply have no guarantee that salary is not going to be reduced tomorrow. And we know they've done a hell of a lot of shit, from shared rides to now they got this upfront price, and all of that stuff has been designed to pay you less. So until you get that, stay out of long-term contracts. Nevertheless, I want to run this by you folks, because maybe I'm ignorant on it. I have never tried to purchase a car to drive for ride sharing. I thought it was bad even back in the day. Absolutely insane now, but maybe I'm getting it wrong. Let me know in the comments, have any of you purchased a vehicle to specifically drive ride sharing full time, putting 100,000 miles per year or more on the vehicle, depreciating the hell out of it, and still was making a decent profit in 2023? We're not talking 2017 or 2016 when you actually could do that. We're talking about right now. Does any of you see the light in doing that? Does that make sense for anybody in any market? If so, what market are you in? Other than Seattle, because in Seattle at $1.50 a mile, it would make sense. But other than Seattle, what market are you in where it makes financial sense to purchase a newer vehicle or a new vehicle in hopes of making enough money from ride sharing full time to pay off the note for that vehicle and provide you with enough of a decent income to survive off of? I can't imagine any market measuring up to that. But let me know in the comments. As always, it's your boy Tim. Subscribe to the channel. See you.